Mic check, mic check. Okay. All right. Hey, this is a terrible operation going on today. Let's see if I can fix this. I think it's working now a little bit. Hey, what's going on? Forever, Nisha. I hope it's not too loud right now. Let's see what it's like. Hopefully it sounds better. Man, I had it unplugged, which will never work that way. It'll never work that way. What's going on? What's going on? Thank you for clicking on the play button. My name is Adrian. This is Glib Talk, and I'm a little agitated and irritated tonight. Agitated and irritated because I let my boy Black Rosebud get me in the mood for no reason. For no reason, I should have ignored him. Right, I should have ignored him and said, "Oh, he's just trolling me, trying to get me to argue." But look, there's no. April is Confederate Heritage Month, and you can celebrate it if you want. I don't have any issue with it. I don't think that they should stop people from celebrating it. I don't think they should start campaigns to stop people from learning about the Confederacy. You can learn as much about it as you want. You can celebrate as much as you want. Buy as many Confederate flags as you like. Not my problem. I don't care to play in that area, right? But I have a problem with the same people, the same type of people who say Black History Month is unnecessary, it's divisive, it teaches a victim mentality, are the same people, the same type of people who also say that Confederate Heritage Month is probably okay. They push for it, they support it, they think it's okay. And I couldn't care less about the one, but I got a problem with the other. The fact that they not only do these people oppose something else or say I don't like it, I don't want to participate in it, they actively try to stop other people from enjoying it, other people from participating in it. So particularly like in Florida or Texas, where they're banning books, they're banning certain informations. They're limiting how African-American history could be taught because they don't want people to be taught African-American history that supports the narrative that America has always been great, has always been good to everyone, has always been fair and treated everyone equally, which is not the case. Not the case, right? And there's no reason for it to be a victim mentality to teach the truth. But it certainly isn't the reality that you treat something that's not true to make everyone feel better or some of the people feel better. That's just my perspective on it. But Confederate Heritage Month, since it started in April, I thought it was a good time to talk about it because Black Rosebud just said the other day that Black History Month is unnecessary because he's an American. And blacks are Americans, so we shouldn't be celebrating Black History Month as a month where in particular we focus on African American history. Maybe we delve a little deeper into African American history. Maybe we do things that we wouldn't always do to kind of shine a light on a history of people who maybe don't get the attention that they may deserve, or that, maybe that people want to learn about. What's up in that, Banks? Thanks for clicking on the play button. Appreciate it. Oh, I'm really low? Hold on a second. Nisha said I was loud. Let me see how that sounds. Tell me if that sounds better. I know all my stuff is messed up tonight because I was, I don't know why it's messed up. It's messed up. It's messed up for sure. But yeah, it frustrates me a little bit, and I'll just say when I was growing up, Black History Month was important where I was at, and they would have a big competition in our city, like a Jeopardy type competition with the schools, and it was like a big thing to learn all this history and try to win the competition. So it was important. I didn't understand other places that didn't have it at all because it was such a prominent thing. There was marches and Black history programs and reenactments and people giving speeches. talking about teaching black history through reenactments. So, like, I have an interest in black history, um, mostly probably because I'm black. But I'm interested in American history. I'm interested in all kinds of history. Right now, I'm reading a book on Trump, if you can believe that, or I'm listening to an audiobook on Trump. But the reality is that there are some people who would say, well, we should just get rid of it because they don't need to know that stuff. That stuff hurts them in the long run. They should just be trying to integrate and assimilate. And I find it funny that Black Rosebud would say, blacks had it better before we assimilated. Blacks had it better before segregation. They had it better when we were on our own. And then the opposite is his sentiment about Black History Month. The opposite is the sentiment. Oh, Black History Month. Nah, we should just be doing whatever. We should just be learning the regular history. And I can't disagree with him there. That we should be included in American history at just as high a rate as we are a percentage of our involvement in our society. So we shouldn't be whitewashed. We shouldn't be only talked about on the high side of Martin Luther King, slavery, Barack Obama. Like, that's the history that they would give us. Rosa Parks got told to move to the back of the bus. Then there was the civil rights movement. Then everything was equal and everything was all good. We're not gonna talk about nothing else. I don't agree with that form of education for Black history. I think it should be more involved. But if you're not gonna give it to us all year, if you're not gonna really include us in the books, if you're not really gonna teach African American history classes as anything more than just an elective that you can choose to do, then why would these people have opposition to, well, during 1 month of the year, we'll take a little bit more of a time out to focus on the history and the achievements and accomplishments of African Americans and blacks in America. Now, you don't have to watch it, correct? This is voluntary. You can turn it off. You can go somewhere else. Because I've never watched a Confederate history program. I've never been to a Confederate history march. I've never went to a play. I have no interest in it at all. When I see that stupid ass flag, I say those people are probably pretty ignorant, and I'm cool with not being anywhere near them. And that's my prejudice about them. The same way they probably say that about, say, a Black Lives Matter protest. They say, oh, those people are probably pretty ignorant. We don't want anything to do with it. But I don't want anything to do with Confederate history. But I'm not also doing anything to stop it. But if I had my druthers, I'd be voting against people that was for Confederate history and against African American Black History Month. I would say the people that oppose it are probably people who don't have my best interest. Therefore, I don't believe they should represent me. And since we live in a representative government where we vote for people to represent us, I vote against those people. So Ron DeSantis signs a bill to limit African American history in schools. He signs a bill to limit how it's taught. He signs a bill to limit the topics. But every year he signs a proclamation that we should celebrate Confederate Heritage Month and those lonely souls who gave their lives because they were trying to make sure that the states had their own rights. But I can tell you with full confidence that the states that joined the Confederacy because they wanted to preserve the right for the people in those states to own slaves. They wanted to preserve the right for people who live in those states to have a level of citizenship that rose above those of Africans and Negroes and descendants of those people. They didn't believe that African Americans or blacks or Negroes had any right to citizenship, and that their only purpose in America was as subservient to white people. I have a hard time talking to someone that supports the flag, defending someone that supports that flag. There's no debate for me about whether it's good or bad is bad. There's no debate. And they lost the war. And because they lost the war, they shouldn't be rocking the flag. And people who consider themselves patriots should understand what they're saying when they're standing with those people. The people you're with are not patriots. They're insurrectionists. The people who believe in the Confederacy and the South will rise again are like a sleeper cell in the United States, waiting for America to slip up. So this time we won't fail at our mission. There's not a debate for me about whether it's good or bad, Confederate Heritage Month, and whether you celebrate it or not. You can celebrate it if you want to. But I think that people who celebrate it probably aren't good people. That's just my opinion. They're probably not good people. And it wouldn't matter if you brought me a beer. It wouldn't matter if you was nice to me. It wouldn't matter if you helped me out at one point in time or another. If you said, hey, I believe in Confederate history, I say this is probably where we part ways in our conversation. We probably have a viewpoint on society to where we're too far gone on our fork in the road to try to find a path to get together. Because I'm in 100% opposition to people who think that way. And the people who support those viewpoints, I don't want to call them racist and say they're racist. I would say they have a flawed way of thinking, and I don't want to associate with them. That's just my. It's a flawed way of thinking that I care not to associate with. But they would like to say that the South seceded from the Union for states' rights. But I put a link in there. I put a link in the description that would take you to the Declaration of Secession that the states had. And every single one of the states either explicitly says we're trying to preserve slavery or implies that slavery is the cause. Slavery is a cause, or the right to have slaves is the cause. But most of the states directly say slavery. Why do you choose to stay living in a racist mentality? I'm not sure what that means. Who would be the racist in this situation? Who would be the racist in this situation where I'm saying that the state of Florida signed a proclamation that says Confederate Heritage Month in April is something we should be celebrating. And I say the Confederacy was a declaration that Negroes were subservient to whites. So I don't agree with celebrating the Confederacy. So I'm not sure who's the racist here. The guy who believes that the Confederacy was good, or the person who accepts the Confederacy for what it actually was. Because I'm just accepting it for what it was. I believe that the Confederacy and the Confederate States, their intent was to preserve slavery for themselves, to continue the economics of using chattel slavery. That's what I believe. So I don't have a racist opinion or a racist mentality. That's just what it was. So the celebration of it today by states like, let me see, the Confederate States, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, South Carolina, the fact that they celebrate it it's not a problem for me. I don't have to celebrate it. But it certainly tells me what they think about people like me when I can read the Declaration and say, that's racist. That declaration is racist. So I would say I'm not the racist. I would say that the Confederate States were absolutely racist. And, what they were trying to preserve in America was a racist idea. So, it wasn't me. It was not me. But even the Confederates felt like at the end of the war that it was time for it to be over. We lost the war, and now we have to get back to business of being Americans. There's a quote from Robert E. Lee. He told them to stow their flags away and put it in their attics. It was over. They lost the war. But for whatever reason, there are some people who felt like we had to hold on to this thing of theirs. They had to hold on to, and because the belief maybe that one day they'd rise again. I don't know. I don't understand it because they lost, but I mean, I guess there are people who wear jerseys of teams that lost the Super Bowl. And NetBank says, is racism not a part of this society and perpetuated on a daily basis? Yeah, I mean, I don't find racism in everything that I see, but I can look at things and say, maybe we're not looking at this the right way, right? Like, how can, when I start talking about Confederate History Month with Black Rosebud, he immediately got agitated. And told me, name somebody that you know that celebrates Confederate History Month. Who's for Confederate History Month? And I'm like, the entire state's for it, because the governor has a proclamation that says we're going to celebrate it. They're having ceremonies and awards and whatever they're doing to celebrate it. I don't celebrate it. I don't go out there, but they're doing it. But the same state that supports that has a problem with African American history, and they're trying to reduce African American history being taught in schools. So do I have a particular name? I guess if I wanted to search some, I can give you some very specific names of people. But then he goes and says, so it's not everybody. It's not everybody. Everybody doesn't think that way. Well, everybody doesn't think the same way on anything. So if we're arguing about whether everyone thinks that way, we'd be having a stupid ass argument. And then that's when I realized he's only arguing with me to be opposition. I don't even know if he even opposes what I'm saying. He's just being opposition. And sometimes that's where I have to take a step back and say, it doesn't matter what right or wrong is or who's winning or losing. This is a stupid argument because we're not even arguing a real point. He doesn't have a point. He just wants to be on the other side of whatever I said, which is fine, but I don't got to participate. And the other thing is that I don't have opposition to people that want to celebrate the Confederacy. So if that's what he wants to do, he should go celebrate with them. But Anisha, fold your flags and go. You can go celebrate with them, but I'm not. You know, and so I'm not saying I'm indifferent to it or I don't care about it, because obviously I saw an article about it and it interested me. But the interest that I had in it wasn't in learning about the Confederacy. It's really a question. Why is it okay for Florida to say we're going to celebrate Confederate History Month, and at the same time the state of Florida says we need to limit the amount of African American history that's being taught? He boils everything down to a racial conversation. He always has to see race, and that is not the way. I don't know what you're talking about. Indomitable Human. I'm not talking about race at all. I'm talking about African American history and the Confederacy History Month. So those two topics would obviously require me to talk about race, because African American History Month is about African Americans, and Confederate History Month is about the Confederacy. I see the Confederacy as a racist movement to continue to preserve the this thing of theirs that they had of slavery. They wanted to preserve it. They didn't want it to end. So yes, it comes down to race, because I would say that people who support the Confederacy today, even though they lost the war, I would say, well, maybe there's some skewing in their thinking. Maybe their thinking is skewed. Why would you be supporting the Confederacy? Like, explain this to me. Why do you support the Confederacy? Do you support the Confederacy because they had cool uniforms? Like, do you like the flag? What's the thing that makes you want to support them? Because when I look at the Confederacy, all I see is the state of Mississippi specifically said um, Negroes are not equal to the white man, and they need to be in a different position than equal. And they also need to be slaves. And slavery needs to be legal. And we're not going to let them take that from us. So I don't know how you view the Confederacy, but that's how I view the Confederacy. So maybe a different topic won't be boiled down to race, but this one, it ends up at race. And I start looking at people funny. I start looking at people funny when the people say, I support the Confederacy. I don't have to be friendly with you. I don't have to agree with you. I'd say, if you support the Confederacy, I may have to start asking you a couple more questions. Maybe we need to probe a little deeper. Why do you like them so much? I was interested in the Confederacy because I live in a state that's very close to Civil War war sites. And I think it was not last summer, but 2 summers ago, I spent a good bit of time traveling around this area, visiting these places, looking at the memorials that are available to see. And it was interesting. It's interesting to learn the history. It's interesting to learn about the battles and how we got here. But I'm not interested because I wanted the other side to win, and I'm not interested like that. But there are some people who still believe, well, one of these days we're going to get it back. And when we get it back, we're going to go back to what we really wanted. Because if you read what they really wanted, what they wanted to do was to preserve slavery. But, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. And I've been wrong a lot, so I could be wrong. Here, let me read. This sentence looks interesting. The party of Lincoln, called the Republican Party under its present name or organization, is of recent origin. It is admitted to be an anti-slavery party. While it attracts to itself by its creed the scattered advocates of exploded political heresies, of condemned theories in political economy, the advocates of commercial restrictions, of protection, of special privileges, of waste and corruption in administration of government, anti-slavery is its mission and its purpose. Well, if you were pro-slavery, then I guess you would be against those guys. I'm not pro-slavery, so I'm not with those guys. The Republican Party, on the other hand, was relatively new and opposed to expansion of slavery. You, Indomitable Human, are 100% correct in that regard. Now, let's do a history lesson here, and say what. How about this? What are the states that were part of the Confederacy? Because maybe everybody doesn't know. What are the states that are part of the Confederacy? Look. Now, maybe this is a good graphic for you, Indomitable Human, to understand how the Democratic Party of the 1860s is the Republican Party of today. But if you look at this map of the slave states, you'll see that all of those slave states are now Republican states. They vote the same. They fly the same Confederate flag. Those are all the places where the Confederate History Month is celebrated, is in all the places where the used to be Democrats are now all Republican Party. So you don't have to convince me. I already believe that the people who used to vote for the Democrats, the people who believed as those people now vote Republican, because those states that used to be solid Democrats all vote Republican, and the people didn't change. New people didn't move into that place. It's the same people there. It's the same people that opposed the Civil Rights Act. It was the same places in America where segregation was the worst. It's the same places in America where lynchings occurred the greatest. It was the places in America where blacks were told to avoid, and they had to have a green book so they could figure out where to eat and to find lodging. So it's not a debate for me about whether those places are good or bad. I see them as bad. I see them as bad, and I don't like the politics of those places. Um, Even though there's really good people, I lived in South Carolina for like 10 years. I love South Carolina, but there's places in South Carolina where I wouldn't venture to. Too many Confederate flags, too many good old boys yelling yeehaw, and there are people who have views that they can't say them out loud, but when it gets dark and they start drinking, sometimes they like to enforce their own laws. So I avoid those places. But it doesn't always come down to race. Let's not forget sundown towns. Exactly. It doesn't always come down to race with me. Everything's not about race. But some things are absolutely about race. And this is one of them. And the idea that the Confederacy was about states' rights, it absolutely was. It was about the states' rights to own slaves. That was at the top of the docket. It was at the top of the at the top of the mission statement of the Confederacy is slavery. Here, this is the Mississippi Declaration here. Let me see, put this on the screen. This is Mississippi, right? This is a declaration of the immediate causes which induce and justify the secession of the state of Mississippi from the federal union. And then they have this sentence here, whatever that sentence means, right? And then they have the next sentence. Our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery. You don't even have to read anymore, right? You can stop reading right there and say, why is Mississippi doing this? Because of this. Our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world. The greatest material interest of the world. What would be the greatest material interest of the world? Slavery. The use of Africans for chattel slavery in America, specifically in the state of Mississippi, which was part of the United States. So you can say it's not about race, or I'm always talking about race. They were talking about race. And I'm talking about them. So it's unfortunate, indomitable human, that you think that I'm just a person who's always talking about race. I'm specifically talking about those who celebrate the Confederate History Month and how it's okay, right, for the places that want to celebrate it. But at the same time, the places that want to celebrate Confederate History Month also have opposition to Black History Month. And I guess it's cool. I guess it's cool if you live there, and that's the representative government that you like, then, you'll be represented well. I'd say those people don't represent me well, so I have opposition to that. But I'm not going out there to stop them. But if I had a chance to vote against them, I'm voting against it every single time. I'm voting against them every single time. Let's see. But it's almost ridiculous to me that there's still a Confederate History Month and that people still celebrate it and want to celebrate it. But I guess it's their right to do that. And the only thing that I could do is to call it out for the hypocrisy that it is. And hopefully someone else will walk away understanding something that I learned a couple years ago, that the state of Mississippi clearly says, like, we want slavery, we're for slavery, we're down with slavery, and we're willing to break apart this great country in order to have it. And Texas said it, Georgia said it, Florida said it, South Carolina said it. They all agree slavery is the shit. We want to keep it. Slavery is the shit, and we want to keep it. And that's fine. That's fine. But they lost the war, and we're beyond that. So we can stop acting like it never happened, and we can stop acting like it's all good now, because it did happen, and it's not all good now. We're still dealing with the impacts of what happened then today. Maybe not in the physical, because today you're arrested for committing the atrocities that they did then. But it was less than 60 years ago when you could do it and nothing would happen. When you talk about they burned down an entire black town and nobody was arrested, it's like, well, how does that happen? How does no one get arrested? But it hasn't happened once or twice in America. It's happened so many times that it's hard to even probably to come up with the real number of how many times black people in America have lost their property, their lives, their livelihoods, because someone else decided to take it from them, and nothing happened. Nothing happened. So, I'm happy that we're in a better place now, but I'm not going to stop and say we're at the mountaintop, because we're not. We're not there yet. And we have to have opposition to the people who want to say, everything's great, now get over it. Right now, the Republicans are working on legislature that's going to protect the rights of whites in a form of reverse racism. And, well, I would say, well, damn, their rights are already preserved, right? There's such a solid majority in America that the only thing that creating a reverse racism policy would do in legislature is make it so that things can go back to the status quo where they were, where you can say, well, we can't identify race anymore. And if we're not forced to acknowledge that there is a bias in our society, then we can go on using our bias to apply the power structure that we want to the people who we want in the way that we want. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I know that when left to their own devices, the South has proven that immediately upon losing the restrictions on changing the voting laws based on race and the racist history of those places, they immediately started to implement racist policies. So I'd say if left to their own devices, they go back to their old tricks. So they need to be monitored, and they need to be controlled by the federal government to make sure that they're preserving the civil rights that the federal government is supposed to, that they have guaranteed us. But we're a long way from the mountaintop, and we're a long way from it being over. And I think sometimes it frustrates me and I have to talk about it. And that's why I'm talking about it today. Because I'm 100% certain that if Ron DeSantis had what he really wants, he would say, we're not going to do this at all. Black History Month, not needed. You got your rights. And I don't think that's right, because he supports Confederate History Month, and he's trying to be the fucking president. So there's that. But I saw something today. I haven't seen QST. I wanted to talk to her about this, but have y'all seen those people that got left in Africa? There's like 8 people that missed the boat. They were on a cruise ship, Royal Caribbean, and the cruise I just did was Royal Caribbean. They're on a Royal Caribbean cruise somewhere on in Eastern Africa, and they go to this country. a little small island, and they go on a private excursion off of the ship. And if you've ever been on a cruise, they tell you got to get back on the ship by a particular time. And if you don't get back, you're going to miss your ride. So these people missed the call. They got back late. I don't know how late they were. It says that they got back in time, that the ship hadn't pulled off yet. So they were able to get the Coast Guard to take them to the ship, and there's all this other stuff. But I just assume the logistics of getting the people on the ship wasn't safe enough to bring them on. So they didn't bring them on the ship. They made them, they couldn't get on. So now they're stuck in Africa. So when I first saw the article on Fox News, it said Royal Caribbean cruise ship strands passengers in Africa. And I was like, they stranded? And what they talk about stranded? And I was interested, like, how you get stranded? And then as soon as you read the article, you immediately come to, oh, they missed their ride. They weren't stranded. They knew what time they're supposed to be there. They missed it. Then I started digging into it a little more, because I said, I've seen people running down the pier when the ship was pulling away. I never The ship didn't pull back. The ship didn't turn around. The ship just kept on going. And I was like, what? Okay, now I need to know. Who were these people who were complaining to the news that they were left in Africa? And now, it's a very strong coincidence that the people were white, right? So I could very easily say the reason why this is on Fox News and the reason why they believe that we should care is because they're white. But I took it one step further and said maybe it's because they complained a lot. Maybe it's because they started calling around. Maybe because they had some kind of power or some level of influence. Maybe it's not just because they're white. Maybe it's because they've used their power in some kind of a way or influence to get someone who had a bigger voice than theirs to put it out to the world. Because if you or I missed our call to get back on the ship, more than likely you just missed your call and you have to figure out a way to get home. But these people, not only did they really, what's up, Roy Zell? What's up, my brother? Not only did they really work hard to try to get them to catch up to the ship, the Royal Caribbean agreed to pay all of their expenses in trying to get from here to there to make it back onto the ship. And I thought that was kind of strange because it's not really the policy. When I went on my cruise, I had to take out insurance. And it's like, if you miss the boat, your insurance will cover your cost of getting back home. But it's strange to me that the Royal Caribbean took their position when initially the position was everyone knows what time they're supposed to come back to the ship. They didn't get back to the ship on time. They missed the call. That's it. So what caused them to change their position? Maybe it was Fox News. Maybe it was the news coverage. Maybe it's that they ended up getting on Good Morning America or something like that. Or maybe it's just because they're white, right? Maybe it's just because they're white. Who knows what the real reason is? I never know. And you can come up with your own assumptions of why those people got what they got. But I don't know if that's what would happen to me. And maybe it's because I'm black. Or maybe it's because I don't have enough juice, or I don't know someone that works for a news agency, or I'm not related to a politician, et cetera, et cetera. But maybe they were able to get in touch with the right person, or maybe just because they're white. That might be too simplistic of a way to look at it, to say just because they're white, they got this thing. But I'm 100% certain that if it happened to me, I wouldn't get it. And I also wouldn't understand why I didn't get it. So there's that. Indomitable Human what do you say here? I think it's funny that you can focus your hate on slave owners. Oh, jeez. Boom, boom. All right. So, one, I'm not sure if hate is where I'm at with this discussion. Let's see. Not the African kings and gangs who were capturing and selling their own people into the slave trade for their own benefit. Boom. So I would say this, Indomitable Human, about that statement. And I want to be very, very clear here, so that way we never mention Africans selling Africans to slave traders. The problem I have is with the government. The problem that I have is with the government. I have a problem with the United States government making it legal for white men to own Africans. I have a problem with the American government saying that Africans could not be citizens. I have a problem with there not being a pathway to freedom in America. So much so that after about 50 years of slavery in the United States, they said we don't need any more slaves. And in the Confederates, I learned this today. In the Constitution of the Confederate States, they outlawed the importation of more Africans. They didn't need any more. They had enough to breed with. And since they could never become citizens, It didn't matter how many were bred, just as long as they didn't outnumber the number that you could control them with, which is why they didn't want them bringing over more. We don't need more. We got enough. We don't need more. We got enough. All full. So I don't have a problem. I take it back. I'm not going to say I don't have a problem with the sale of the Africans. But I do have a problem with the government that says in the Bill of Rights that all men are created equal, and then in the same breath they can say, but not them. Got a problem with that. What's up, Joe? Ain't seen you in a minute. Now Joe, I know you was avoiding me. I know you was avoiding me because you know that as soon as I saw you, I was gonna say, what the heck was her name? The two women from Georgia that you said was going to jail, the two election workers from Georgia. I can't remember their names right now. They got all that money from Rudy Giuliani. They ain't got no problems. $148 million. What was Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss. That's right. That's their names. They were supposed to go to jail. They were. I just want you to say you were right. That's all you got to say, Joe. You ain't got to give me a lot. You just say, man, you was right. I was wrong. And we can continue on. I think it was terrible what they did to them women. And I think it's terrible what Trump is doing now, which is the exact same thing that they were doing to these two women. Is putting them in line to be stalked and harassed by the fanatics, which isn't right. And the fanatics go too far because they really want to win and they believe in the person who's telling them. And one of those people are going to do something crazy. And everyone should understand that is the goal. That one of them do something crazy. Joe said, oh man, Joe. Oh man. Give me a hug, Joe. Come back into the fold. Come back. I can't believe you said that, but I'm glad you said it. Black Rosebud would have never said he was wrong. Let me see. But imagine if they were black. Imagine if who was black? Oh, wait, she's talking about something. Let me see. The issue is when non-melanated people hear their truth is what they don't want to talk about. So eliminate black history. It won't expose racist, evil, hateful, non-melanated people and who they are. I'm not sure what he's talking about there, so I'm not going to even try to break that down. Just say, all right, it seems legit. But anyway, yeah, so Joe saying I was wrong is the highlight of my night. But yeah, it's Confederate History Month. If you want to celebrate it, You should probably amplify it, do a little more so people can see it and make it more widespread. But it already is pretty widespread. It's celebrated in 6 states. But I'm going to focus my energy on learning black history versus trying to prevent someone else from learning about Confederate history. And I think that's a good position to take. And if your position is opposite that, then I'd say that you probably have a problem in trying to prevent the learning of something. I thought that Georgia had some semblance of law and order with free and fair elections. Georgia did have Georgia had a wonderful election. Georgia had a wonderful election. They were able to get through multiple hand counts on the ballots, digital, the forensic analysis of the machines. Like, they did all kinds of stuff to prove that what we thought happened. So I think the only thing that makes the Georgia election be bad is that they were lied to, and then in perpetuating the lie, they decided to stalk and harass 2 people that had nothing to do with it. And that's wrong. Oh yeah, the busted water pipes, yeah. You know what? Water pipes bust sometimes. That's that's how it goes, Joe. Water pipes bust sometimes. But I'm not sure if that's reason to say that the election was stolen because the water pipes was busted. Annette Banks said the people that are good on both sides will be celebrating for sure. Yeah, I'm sure of that. I'm sure of that. Yeah, but like I like to learn about the information. Dude, it's been 3 years. I'm over it. You should too. I've been waiting for 2 years to tell you that, Joe. That's how long I've been holding it. I've been waiting for 2 years for you to come back around so I can tell it to you. But I'm over the election. The election is done. The I you know what I'm fascinated by. I'm fascinated by this. I'm fascinated by the fact that the election was over for me the day after the election. The day after Trump lost the election, it was over. But it wasn't over for Trump supporters or Trump. And for 6 months after that, they were fighting like hell to somehow overturn it. And somehow he was coming back in August of 2021. And somehow he was coming back in November of 2021. And somehow he was coming back the following year at some point in time, overturning the results. I was over it. Most people was over it. The entertainment I got was watching the people who couldn't let it go, not let it go. That was entertaining to me in more of a conversation. Like this is a conversation that about the Confederate History Month. Just a conversation. Uh-oh. I saw a video of Jed with a monkey. I was like, what the fuck? Where the hell did that come from? I'm not sure what the monkey is about, but I'm not sure if that guy should be allowed to have animals. I don't know. He seems like he might be a little off there. But anyway, that's all. It's been 53 minutes, and that's far too long. I was only going to do 30 minutes today. Look, I appreciate you guys clicking on the play button today. If you could hit the like button, that'd be dope. It helps with my ego. It makes me feel better about myself. But but yeah, I appreciate you guys coming through, and I'm gonna call it a night. But definitely keep coming back around and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It is greatly appreciated. All right, y'all. I'm out. Peace.